let's get into it. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. We will proceed. So this session is recorded. It will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel. It will be promoted to the wider audience on YouTube and multiple African countries as we normally do. So watch out for that. So let's just start with the introductions. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Inspired Growth NPC Monthly Masterclass. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening. So tonight's conversation is particularly special because it invites us to look beyond leadership as a position and beyond leadership as a title or beyond professional achievements. So it really invites us to look at the stories that shape us. And most importantly, it also asks us to consider the stories that we are creating for those who will come after us. And our theme tonight is really called We Are the Ancestors. This is the title of the book that has been written by the wonderful and incredible Malisha. Malisha, before I go any further, welcome first and foremost, and just quickly introduce yourself and just tell us maybe briefly about, who you are, where you've been, anything that you're comfortable to share, and why we are the ancestors. Because sometimes when you hear the word ancestors, for us, from a cultural perspective, it gives us all sorts of imaginations what this could be. But what is your context with this book title?
So thank you, Pam, and good evening, everybody. As Pam says, my name is Malisha. I am the mother of two teenagers, so that should tell you my degree of resilience. But broader than that, I am a person for the past 2 years who's undertaken an entrepreneurship journey after 29 years in corporate. My life has always centered around inclusion work specifically and belonging. And we are the ancestors. Without disrespecting the African concept of what ancestors is, we continually get told we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. How many times have you heard that? And in everything that we see, with social media being what it is, these days people's worth is based on the number of followers you have, if you're able to go viral. And my view is that each and every one of us has a responsibility. It's about the people who came before us, but more importantly, what are the things that we are doing that sets the scene for the children that come after us, right? So somewhere in the process of making this book, I understood it to be something different, that being an ancestor is not something that begins after we are gone. It begins now in the choices that we make, the disappointment that we may have in front of our children, in the cycles we choose to break when no one is watching, and in the dignity we hold on to when the system gives you every reason to let it go. So I wanted a platform for women specifically initially, because everything that we do is seen to be ordinary, right? We expect it to be super mom. We expect it to be the best professional. We expect it to be available and always on. And our lives are considered ordinary. But I just look at our grandmothers, who were the very thread that kept communities together. And that is why We Are the Ancestors exist, is to give young women the permission to truly be who they want to be, without society telling them that they're ordinary, without society telling them what they need to be able to be in order to fit in. So that's it in a nutshell, Pam. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Malisha. You've certainly given us a mouthful. I don't see this as a nutshell. You have already given us food for thought. And so which really sets the tone for this conversation, and is really going to be exciting and explosive and engaging and reflective. And thank you for joining us, to the leaders that have now joined the call. You are more than welcome to interact on the chat, ask questions. We will have time for Q&A, but let's just complete the introductions. So joining Malisha in this conversation, so let me just introduce myself. I'm Pamela Nqobile Xaba. I'm the co-founder and the chairperson of Inspired Growth NPC. We're all about leadership development, collaboration, inspiration, and really encouraging development of future leaders as well. And so joining Malisha in this conversation are also two wonderful leaders and thinkers who will help us unpack the themes from different perspectives, and they'll be engaging with Malisha as well. So I don't work alone, I don't move alone. I believe in community, I'm a community builder. So I've got my wonderful leaders here on the call, which is ladies first. Let's start with you, Mary. Mary Gedamu, please introduce yourself. She's the co-founder and community lead for Inspired Growth. Over to you, Mary, briefly. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Well, you have already introduced me, but my name is Mary Gedamu. I'm actually currently based in Pietermaritzburg, KZN. And as Pam said, I am the co-founder of Inspired Growth. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And then we also then move over to Dr. Pat Mazibuko, who's our executive director here at Inspired Growth. He's a really an experienced voice in leadership, in governance, in organizational transformation. Dr. Pat, how are you and welcome?
Thank you so much, Pam, and a very good evening to everyone on the call. I'm Pat Mazibuko. As Pam says, I am very passionate about leadership, but let me not miss the opportunity to wish you a happy Women's Month. Good evening.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Pat. So before we begin, I just really like to invite everyone here, all the leaders that have joined, to just do something that is very simple. You know, as you listen tonight, the conversation, the engagement, don't only listen to Malisha's story and the inspiration from writing the book and the leaders that actually, you know, are captured, whose stories are captured in her book, but just also as you introspect and listen and reflect, ask yourself, you know, these simple questions. Who shaped me? You know, what did I inherit? What did I have to overcome? What am I carrying forward? And what am I leaving thought? Just think about it as you engage with this conversation. Let us begin this important conversation. I'm now going to hand over to both Mary and Dr. Pat, as well as then for them to engage with Malisha. So over to you, Mary, and you can engage with Malisha in the best way that you think fits this type of conversation in the context of a book. We are the ancestors, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pam. Again, Malisha, thank you so much for joining us. I'm already inspired.
Mary, are you there?
Yes, you can't hear me? Sorry, Pam. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Hello?
you.
Oh, okay. You can hear me. Maybe it's just Pam's network.
I can hear you.
We can hear you. Continue.
Yeah, okay. My network is bad, so just switching off my camera just for now. So I was saying that really inspired by what you've shared earlier, Malisha. But I've got a few questions for you. Really a great privilege to have you with us this evening. Now, I want to say that your work speaks for something that's deeply human, and that's the relationship between our personal stories, the environments that shape us, and the legacy we ultimately leave behind. So before we get into the deeper questions, I would love for you to take us back to the beginning. Now, when you think about the woman you are today, what are some of the stories, people, or experiences that you believe shaped you?
Thank you, Mary. So the honest answer is that I'm actually a collection of everything that came before me. And some of it I chose, and a lot of it I did not. In my book, I do share that my parents were not allowed to get married. They actually eloped from a little town called Newcastle and ended up in a caravan in Ermelo, of all places. So that is where I come from. I come from not the standard way of things being done all those years ago. So not from approval, not from comfort, or the very neat version of family that society likes to celebrate. I come from love. I come from refusal. uncertainty, and courage. And I think that those four things have lived with me all this time. My mother taught me kindness. She taught me generosity. I mean, she taught me to read and write when I was 4, guys. And my mom only had standard 1 education. Sorry, I don't know the grades. I think that's a grade 3. My dad only had standard 4 education. So these were people who never saw beyond primary school. But my dad expanded for us what was imaginable. He was the first person to leave the environment he was born in to want to do something better. And he moved the line from a generation perspective. He gave us a wider horizon. And he taught me by example that you don't have to wait for perfect conditions because they don't exist. You move, you pack, you adapt. And these two people are everywhere in who I am as a person today.
Wow. By the way, I live, like I said, I live in Pietermaritzburg, and my husband is actually from Newcastle. So I might end up visiting your family when we drive down. Thank you so much for that. So was there a particular moment in your life when you realized that my story actually matters? I want to share this story, and you want to get it out. Is there a particular moment for you that inspired that?
So, in all honesty, it was sitting with these 21 women. I myself was going through my own journey of fundamental shift. And in sitting with these 21 women who contributed to the book, I went into that process thinking I'm gathering stories. So I don't call myself an author, I'm a curator of stories. And somewhere in the middle, I realized that I myself was being gathered by these sisters. These women were so incredibly honest with me. They shared deeply personal things. They were so unguarded with their lives. And every time I sat with one of them, I thought, if her story matters, I'm sure would mine, because they equally gave me a safe space. And if her life carries that much depth, so does every life, in terms of the way in which we view things. So that is when I understood I couldn't ask of them what I wasn't willing to do myself, right? How that wouldn't go down well. I'm asking you to share all of your deepest parts of you, and I wasn't going to do it. And which is why my chapter's in the book, which is why I actually went last. The moment I realized my story matters was when I started questioning all of the constructs of what is success? What does extraordinary mean? What is special? All of these social constructs that actually build exclusion and make people continually have to question themselves.
Amazing. So the next question was, what inspired you to write the book? But you've already shared with us and then also talked about the amazing woman that inspired you. And it's really amazing also that they felt comfortable to share their story with you, which means you have a very good listening ear. So now, just to talk about the book briefly, was this book something you always knew you wanted to write? Or did the story emerge through your own experiences? So you talked about, your parents and how they shaped you, and the women also, the 21 women that you work with. But is it something that you knew that you wanted to do for a long time?
So, no. If you had told me 2 years ago I would write books, I would like, huh? Not this auntie, right? It was so outside of everything that what I defined success to be at the time, right? But one of the things is that I refuse for women to remain invisible. I absolutely refuse. And being the mother of a girl child, that is just amplified even more, right? And it's something we need to notice and be more conscious about. The women around us, in our workplaces, in our communities, in my own life, do incredibly extraordinary things. And society considers it ordinary, right? By the standards of how many followers you have. They hold our communities together. They hold families together. They navigate systems that were never designed for them, make decisions in the dark that change the direction of generations. And none of it was written down, Mary. None of it, because it's considered ordinary. That is her role. She should be doing that sort of thing. So history has always had a preference. It records what's considered remarkable, the titled, the visible, and it leaves out the women who raise their children alone, who keep communities breathing, the ones who break cycles very quietly, without any applause and without anyone writing it down. And you ask the question, but why now? So why do you write a book, right? I myself reached a point in my life where I had to reckon with some really hard things. I found myself 2 years ago at the intersection of burnout, at the intersection of retrenchment, and add to that menopause. So I had the triple factor, right? All three happening at once. And I woke up on the first time on the 1st of August, 2024, and I didn't have a job for the first time in 29 years. 29 years. And that silence of waking up and not knowing who I was outside of what I produce was scary. And I thought, if I'm experiencing this and I have a language for it, what about the women who are experiencing it and don't have a language for it? And this became the answer for what I needed and the invitation I needed to extend to my fellow ladies.
Wow. Really inspiring. You know, what you said about these days, we do everything for the likes and the clicks. But as you said, as a mother, there are a lot of things that we do, you know, in the background that we do not even share externally. And led to your point, you mentioned about what we do now. It's not like after we're gone. What we do now will really influence what happens in the future generations, which is very important. But that term ancestors, in many places, you know what it's associated with. So what does that statement mean to you, actually? The title itself, the ancestors, what does it mean to you personally?
So when we hear the word ancestors, like most people, I think about those who came before us, right? My grandparents. I think about people's choices shaped what made it possible for me. And I said it in the opening, we are told you are your ancestors' wildest dream. What does that mean? What does it mean to be an ancestor? And once again, to all of the people on the call, I don't mean any disrespect to our African view of what an ancestor is and the spirituality that goes around it. For me, it begins now. We talk about legacy, but what do we mean by legacy, right? I heard someone once say, the way you talk about yourself becomes your daughter's inner voice, right? That fundamentally shifted the way in which I do things. And for me, you know, in the book, I share that my first son died on the day that he was born. And the grief of that loss changed me in ways that I'm still discovering till today. But what it also taught me is that the people we love do not have to survive to shape us. Kalia, which was my son's name, is a part of my story. He is a part of my legacy, even though he didn't even live for 24 hours. And he is in some way an ancestor. And that is what the title means to me. It's that legacy is not a destination. It's not, I'm going from point A to point B. It is in every decision we make. It is in every choice we make. And, you know, I think it's Dr. Maggs who says, there's great freedom in choice, but there's no freedom from the consequences of your choice. So legacy is not a destination. It's a consistent practice, and it's happening right now.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us.
Mary, if I may come in.
Please come in.
If I may come in before you
Yes,
proceed. Yes, let me just come in. I see there's a question in the chat, and I don't want us to miss it. So before maybe you proceed, let me read it. It's from Thandiswa Mabuza. So Thandiswa, you're more than welcome also to unmute and expand and maybe elaborate, give clarity on what you have written here in the chat, which says, Malisha, what inspired you to move from corporate to entrepreneurship, and how did you know that you are ready for that shift or that change? So that's the question from Thandiswa. So Thandiswa, you are more than welcome to engage with Malisha, yeah? So that's the question for you, Malisha.
Thank you. So, Tandiswa, if you had told me 2 years I'd be an entrepreneur, I am the most risk-averse human being you will ever come across. I am the eldest daughter. I take care of extended family members, as I'm sure those of you on the call do. I'm the primary breadwinner, and I've always gotten a paycheck at the end of the month. But I got to a point where I realized how much of my soul was impacted by the work I did. And there's a long history to being in the role that I am in, because for me, fairness and consistency is a non-negotiable, especially working in HR. So I woke up, so I was retrenched, as I said earlier, and that 1st of August, the 2nd of August, I put on my sneakers and I call it rage walking, because I had all of this rage in me and I needed to do something with it. And during my rage walking, I realized if I could be this present and do this much for a corporate, why could I not do it for myself? You know, we were talking earlier, I'm actually away at the moment with 3 other female entrepreneurs who have all given up corporate life. So I said to them on our way here, can you imagine? We have 4 female CEOs on our way to a boss parade by ourselves. You are your biggest obstacle. Anything that you think you can do and you won't be able to do is true. So for me, I didn't know that I was ready. If you had told me, I would not believe it. But you choose your hard, Tandiswa. Corporate is hard. So is on entrepreneurship. You get to a point where you choose your hard. And I think being over 50, you have this wealth of experience that you can now package very differently. And for me, being of service to others is something that is one of the most beautiful gifts you can give the world. And I'm trying to do that through my entrepreneurship journey. I hope I answered your question. So if you're waiting to move out of corporate, stop waiting and just do it. Thanks, Pam.
Awesome. So I'm not sure then, Mary, if you want to continue with your session and wrap up so that we also give a chance to Dr. Pat to engage as well.
Yes, okay. Just moving on to the next one quickly. So, Malisha, you talked about, what you have experienced throughout your life. We talked about burnout, retrenchment, and then also the loss of your son. So many women also carry that sort of, stories that are not taught. Stories of sacrifice, survival, and stories of courage like yourself. So just to put it out there bluntly, how important is it for women to reclaim and tell their own stories? Because we tend to keep it to ourselves. There is also embarrassment. But when we find out that I want to go out there and share my story, so how important is it for women to reclaim their power and then share their story with the world?
For me, it's not just important, Mary. I think it's necessary for our health, for our communities, and for the generations that come after us. So when a story is never told, it doesn't disappear. It travels through our bodies. It shows up as patterns in how we respond to fear, in who we believe we are allowed to become, and in what we pass forward without meaning to. I included my own story in this book because I did not think it was fair to ask these women to do something I was not willing to do myself. And I felt that that form of inequality was not something I could afford in that book. And that's why I went last. The thing about telling your story is this: it doesn't just release you. It releases the women watching you, your daughter, your niece, the young women in your team who thinks she's about to have it all together before she can be taken seriously. When you tell the truth about your life, you give other people permission to tell the truth about theirs. And that is the most powerful thing a woman can do. Not to inspire and not to be this person with 1 million followers standing on stages. Provide safe spaces that give women permission to truly be themselves.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I think just the last one. Now, as you mentioned, many of us carry the stories of our families and in our communities, healing quietly as well. Now, how do we get to decide which parts of our inherited story to carry forward and which parts we need to change? What determines that?
I think the first part, Mary, the first step is simply being honest enough to name what you inherited,
Yeah.
not to celebrate it, not to condemn it, just to see clearly and understand what it is. So in my environment, or the way I grew up, I inherited a strong work ethic. I inherited an understanding that education is sacred, which was important for parents that never went beyond primary school, right? I carry those things proudly forward. That these are the things that stand you in good stead, but should never come at the cost of who you are. But I also inherited things that I had to work hard to unlearn. A tendency to carry too much, that I needed to solve the world's problems, a belief that rest is something you earn rather than something that is necessary, an inclination to make myself useful to everyone except myself. Now, it's so easy to say, but these 2 years have been, we were talking about in the car, and I said to the ladies, like, I've never been a patient person. Now I'm a patient person. I don't live my life by spreadsheets anymore, right? And I think when we have a tendency to carry too much, we overextend ourselves and we put ourselves at physical risk from a health perspective. So the question I've learned to ask is not, is this useful? But is this mine to carry? Because some of what we carry fruitfully never ours. It was given to us before we were old enough to choose it, right? And one of the women in the book said it perfectly. And she said, breaking the cycle is not an act of rebellion, it's an act of love.
Wow.
So the reframe reminded something in me, and I hope it changes something in whoever hears it tonight. Is it yours to carry?
Well, that's something to really pause and reflect on. I think before I hand over to Dr. Pat, I would like to say kudos to your parents, even though they didn't have formal education, but they raised you with kindness, and then also taught you to be resilient. So really well done to them, and well done to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Pat. Over to you.
Before you come in, Dr. Pat, we just want to finish off the comments here in the chat. And there's Tandiwe Gama saying profound. You choose your heart. Yeah, indeed. Life is hard. Such is life, Dr. Pat. But really choose your heart, And also Wanda is saying that Malisha, most definitely, I need to unlearn. Can't help you can't help the world power. So I'm not sure if you want to elaborate on that, Wanda, just for context in terms of what it is that you are feeling with the statement. Okay, no, that's fine. Wanda is giving us a heart. So, Dr. Pat, thank you for being the thorn amongst the roses. One of the, not sure if you are the only male on this call. Let me just check. It looks like
but
it may
I've
seem
noted
like.
that Dr. Sipesihle Kunene is
Oh,
also here.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one. We've got Dr. Sifesihle, we've got Evans. Oh, I missed them. Yeah, now because we'll put them on the spot to say something. And I trust that you will do that, Dr. Pat. So over to you. Please engage with our guest, Malisha.
Thank you so much, Pam, and thank you so much, Mary. Good evening again, Malisha.
Thank you.
I want us to explore a relationship between identity and leadership. And before we do that, you told us about the 4 women that are just driving on a postporant. I thought, you guys are a little bit gutsy to do that. But 2 things. Pam, she
Yes.
talks about the painful moment where she woke up the next day, she did not have a job. And it brought me to 2 things. And I would wanted to talk to us about this. That kind of a painful moment, the next day, you find yourself having to pivot. It's a forceful pivot. You didn't plan for it. How did you manage that pivot? Just briefly.
Very, very painfully, Dr. Pat. So the pivot was everything I had done, I didn't realize was largely rooted in my work, my title, right? I was never someone that celebrated my title, but I think the thing that became so clear to me was that a lot of people only respected me because of my title, Dr. Pat. You know, people stopped taking your calls. You know, I'm not calling you for anything. I don't want any handouts, like, you know, and Pammy's clapping because she understands exactly what I'm saying. But for me, the pivot was facilitated by, we never stayed very long in any town because my dad was a steel fixer. So managing change came naturally to me, right? I have a family to feed, just like every other mother on this call. I was not going to sit back and allow what had happened in a corporate environment to have to stop me from being able to provide for my family. And I think if I had, and that's the brutal honesty, Dr. Pat, I have a family to feed, and nothing was going to get in my way in order to do that.
Thank you so much, colleagues. I hope you're watching. It's not so much about what she is saying. It's about the body language and the how she's communicating the message. I'm watching. But in the interest of time, let us proceed. And I want you to tell us, how does knowing your story influence the way you lead? You're out there with the other ladies, you know, trying to apply your mind. But how does knowing your story influence how you lead?
So, very deeply, and I'm still learning some stuff, Dr. Pat. I know I come from people who had no formal power, but led with everything they had, right? My father never had a title. He led his siblings after his dad died when he was very young. He led our family through constant change. And the discipline he instilled in us, that refusal to stay in transition longer than necessary, is how I lead today. I also know I come from people who were excluded from systems that were not designed for them. You know, my ancestors, as in my historically, came here as indentured laborers. Now you can call it indentured laborers, but slavery is slavery, right? My parents weren't allowed to get married because of caste. I was actually one of the first employment equity officers in our country in 1998. So don't gasp, everyone. I am that old, right? These facts are not coincidental. I don't believe in coincidence, right? Knowing your story means you know why you care about what you care about. It means when someone in a meeting tries to dismiss fairness as something that is soft, you know exactly why you're not going to let that go. It's not an ideology. It is inheritance. And the leaders who worry me the most are the ones who've lost that thread from where they come from. I'm not going to change my accent. I'm not going to change the way I dress in order to fit a social construct of what it means to be a leader. And for me, when you forget where you come from, you start making decisions that only make sense where you currently are. And that is a dangerous kind of power, Dr. Pat.
No, thank you so much. I want us to proceed. There's often pressure on women in leadership to appear strong, capable, and resilient all the time. And then often they find themselves in a tug of war between strength and vulnerability. I want us to tell us, what does authentic leadership look like when we allow ourselves to acknowledge both our strength and vulnerability?
So for most of my career, I understood strength to be endurance as not showing the cost, right? My body felt the cost, but I certainly didn't show it, right? You had to be the person who holds everything together while quietly running on empty. I now understand that that's very expensive performance, right? I spent years in leadership roles that asked a great deal of me, Dr. Pat, I've had to negotiate hostage situations at a mine when salaries didn't come through. I remember leaving home at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to get work done. I kept functioning, which everyone interpreted as, give it to Malisha, she'll get it done. If anyone can get it done, she will. But functioning and flourishing are not the same thing. The burnout eventually caught up with me, and it caught up with me. It was hard on my body. And what I understand now is that acknowledging vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is the precondition of genuine strength. To be able to say, I don't know. To be able to say, I'm struggling. Please, can you help me? Right? Please support me in this. I do not have the answer. You give everyone around you the permission to be human. I don't know the answer, but you can trust I will be in that trench with you and we will find the answer together. And human teams perform better than performative ones. And for me, authentic leadership looks like knowing the difference between what you're feeling and what you are performing. So this concept of being performative, doing things right when the right people are around. Who are you actually fooling, right? So being honest, being fair, and being consistent, and making an honest choice about which of what the room actually needs, and meeting people where they are, Dr. Pat. I will never pretend to be something I'm not.
Thank you so much. That's very great. Shall we move on? What we have observed is that many people become leaders because of difficult circumstances. That being said, they have to navigate adversity, exclusion, and disappointment or uncertainty. And they've got to navigate the VUCA world as we normally talk about it in this day and age. But I want us to zoom into one thing. What has Resilient taught you about leadership that success alone could not have taught you?
I think success teaches you what works when things are going well. And resilience teaches you who you actually are.
Wow.
So on the 1st of August 2024, when I woke up unemployed, the silence that followed was not peaceful, right? It asked me questions I'd been too busy to answer before. Without work, who am I? And what am I actually working for? So that experience cracked something open in me. And what I found underneath the crack was something I'd not fully met before, a version of myself that was not defined by what I'd produced. That was both equally terrifying and necessary in terms of being resilient. So resilience has taught me that our identity cannot live entirely in our job title and in a specific role. Roles end. I learned that the hard way. Companies restructure, industries collapse. If everything you know about yourself is housed in your title, you are one retrenchment away from not knowing who you are. It's also taught me something about grace, Dr. Pat. I've retrenched many people in my career, not something that I'm proud of. I remember a man old enough to be my father crying in my arms, asking me, how would he feel his family? And that's a moment that fundamentally changes you. Having been on the other side of that conversation, I carry both experiences now. The person doing the hard thing and the person that it's being done to. And that double consciousness changes how you lead. So success teaches you confidence, resilience teaches you compassion, and in leadership, compassion is the most useful of the skills.
Perfect. Malisha, there's a word that people use, and we use it quite often. It's called legacy, and it means different things to different people. I want you to talk to us in the context of what we're talking about right now. Do you believe that ordinary people are creating legacy every day? And if so, what does it look like? Did you copy that?
Absolutely. Without
Okay.
question, Dr. Pat. Yes? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, you may proceed.
To answer your question, sure. To answer your question, absolutely without question. Legacy is not reserved for people whose names go on to buildings, Dr. Pat. That is a very narrow and very expensive definition of legacy. and it excludes most of the people who are actually shaping the world. Every woman in We Are the Ancestors is creating a legacy. Not one of them is a public figure. Not one of them is famous in the conventional sense. I know none of them have 1 million followers on social media. But the chapter from the woman whose grandmother prayed before dawn every morning, that grandmother shaped what peace looked like for her granddaughter. That is legacy. A teacher who saw something in a child and said, you are awesome. That is legacy. A mother who made a different choice than her mother so her daughter could have more room to be herself. That is legacy. So legacy is a ripple effect of how we show up when no one is keeping the score or no one is following the number of followers you have. And the beautiful and confronting thing about that is that it means we are already creating a legacy. Right now, tonight, the question is not whether you leave one. It's you already are. The only question is, what kind of legacy are you leaving behind?
Thank you so much. Well taken. I want to invite you to bring this whole conversation into a workplace context.
Yes.
See, many women
Yes.
are leading organizations, teams, businesses, communities, whilst also carrying personal and family histories. So the question that I wanted to engage us on is, how can organizations create environments where women do not have to leave their humanity at the door in order to be seen as credible leaders in this day and age?
Okay, so that's a question that's very close to my heart, Dr. Pat. Because I've spent most of my career trying to create equitable workspaces, from ensuring that organizations had fully paid maternity leave to things like having rooms for women to actually extract milk rather than them having to do it in a toilet. So the answer is businesses need to stop rewarding the performance of strength and start rewarding the practice of it. And what I mean by that is many of the workplaces celebrate women who endure without complaint. Oh, give it to her, she'll get it done. Who deliver without asking for support. Don't worry about a budget, she can make miracles happen with nothing. Who lead without ever appearing to be affected by anything. And then we wonder why so many women are burning out or opting out or leaving. So culture is not what people put in their value statement. It's the worst behavior an organization allows. And if you allow women to be interrupted in meetings, that is your culture. If you allow women's ideas to be credited to someone else in the room, that is your culture. If you allow emotional labor of an entire organization to fall on the women in it, that is your culture. So what needs to change? We need leaders who model something different. They understand the full humanity of the people in the workplace, and that is a core source of what we can get out of our people in terms of accessing discretionary effort. When women can bring their whole selves to the business, their backgrounds, their experiences, their particular way of seeing the world, the quality of decisions improves, the quality of the environment improves. And practically creating the conditions where women can name what they need without it being read as a weakness. Oh, she's high maintenance. The number of times I've heard that. And I'll give you a perfect example, Dr. Pat, if I may. I started 30 years ago in mining, and I was part of the first brown girls to go underground. And within the first month, the falls and slips increased. And the first thing the general manager said is, that's why we don't allow women underground. So we did a root cause analysis. And the reason why that was happening was because we were wearing men's PPE. So no wonder we were falling. It was not designed for us as women. So changing our lens to be inclusive, not saying, let's all meet at the bar at 5:30 to have drinks so we can make decisions. I've got family to have to go home and cook for. Let's go and play golf. No, dudes, that's not going to happen for me. So look at all of those forms of social exclusion, your policies, what in it promotes women or excludes women, and it's not asking for favors. I absolutely refuse to see it as that. Sorry, I
No,
feel very
no, that's
strongly
fine.
about this, Dr.
We
Pat.
love the emotions. I mean, remember, they're very captivating. But before we go to Mary, there's something that you said, and I cannot leave it alone. The statement, she's high maintenance. I've heard this statement a number of times, but coming from women to other women. Why so? Then we go to Mary.
Yo, there's a lot of this going around right now, and there's the stereotype that women don't support women. I think part of We Are the Ancestors is to prove that that is not right. We have a scarcity mindset that is, I have the only seat at the table, which is absolute BS, and I won't say it for what it is. When you change your perspective from one of scarcity to abundance, you know, Dr. Pat, my favorite saying in the world, there's enough sun for us all to shine, right? And the bitchiness, sorry for me using that language, that comes with she's high maintenance. I'm sorry. I have my own race to run. I'm not here for a popularity contest. I'm not here to take away from your children, because I truly believe that there's enough for everyone.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, shall I hand over to Mary? Kindly lead us, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Before you come in, Mary,
yes.
sorry, Mary.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
Before you come in, I
Yeah.
just can't help but I have to read these comments in the chat. First of all, it's so wonderful to witness how our male counterparts like Dr. Pett react to the emotions that Malisha was demonstrating as she was trying to state her points. And Dr. Pett was like, no, it's captivating. I just love the word.
Indeed,
It's
indeed.
captivating. So, but let's take a comment from Evans, who's written, where is it now? It disappeared. Okay. Evans is saying that I'm also in the process of rebuilding my life from scratch. I feel like my whole life before now had no impact on society. And when everything is going well for you, you never realize how people really feel about you. The true colors come after things fall apart. Yeah, that is so true. What do you have to say to that comment, Malisha? I know you touched on it. I'm not sure, Evans, you are more than welcome to unmute and maybe expand on your thoughts, what came to mind when you wrote this comment. Okay, so let's move on. We've got another comment from Tandi
I'm happy to
Wegama
respond
saying
while
that. Okay, yes, please respond to Evans first. Sorry about that.
No worries. You know, there's this, and you often see it at the back of taxis, so don't laugh at me, guys. When days are dark, friends are few. And it's exactly that. You know, yes, people's true colors come to bear, but it's a reflection on their character, Evans, not you. Be careful of what's yours to own. For me, I would rather have, and I continuously talk about these 3 women I'm traveling with. You cannot imagine 3, 4 more different people. But they have my back, and it's about quality, not quantity. And when people show you who they are, Evans, believe them.
Believe them.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, believe them, yeah. So, and then we've got Tandiwe who's saying that showing vulnerability is itself a strength, especially for a woman, yeah? Not sure if you want to elaborate on that, Tandiwe. Okay, you're more than welcome to unmute. If not, we'll then move on to Wanda, who's saying that what a powerful session. I just don't have the words to say. I'm so inspired. Women's Month, she is sharing important leadership roles that we end up shrinking ourselves in a working environment so that we are not perceived as difficult. Yes, that is absolutely true. And then Tandiwe is also then saying that, Malisha, your representation of a woman is really impressive. Your passion for women's experiences comes through so remarkably. I love it. Thank you so much. Really, it's an impactful session. So with that, Mary, over to you. And then before we go, Tandiswa is also saying that with people like you, womanhood is going far, and we are grateful to be born in such a time. Yes, what a time to be alive. You know, we write our own stories, and we need to show up with no shame and keep on moving with our held head high. Yeah. So, Mary, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Pam. First of all, I want to say I shared the sentiments of these comments. Really inspired. I think this is a really much needed session. It came at the right time. Now, Malisha, you have shared, honestly about the different chapters that shaped you, the courage of your parents, the loss that you carry, and then also finding yourself in a season of burnout, retrenchment, and uncertainty after a lot of, many years of work. So my question is, if you could sit across from the younger version of yourself before she knew she would have to navigate all of these expectations, what would you tell her? What would you tell the younger version of yourself?
Mm. So I tell her that exposure is not the same as intelligence. You do not grow up in circumstances that gave you every piece of knowledge. Like I remember one of the things that one of my first jobs at Anglo was to take care of the bursary students. Now I call them my kids, but they were like 2 or 3 years younger than me. But just sitting at a formal table with 1,000 forks and knives, it sounds like a silly example, but it's not a personal failing what you have access to. It's a distribution problem. And you will figure out everything you need to figure out in the end. I would tell her, the people who believe in you are not wrong. My boss, Sarah, saw something in me I could not see myself. She threw me in the deep end over and over and over. And I did it. It became a pattern. Fear, doubt, step in anyway. Do it anyway. And that's the question I'd love for you guys to ask yourself when you're faced with that. What is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen if you try this, if you do this? And you'll find by putting words to it and labeling it, it takes away that fear. And I'm a very faith-based person, and both faith and fear require you to believe in something you can't see. Choose wisely, I say to you. And I think one more thing, the things that break your heart won't destroy you. They'll deepen you. And I know it's hard to believe when you're inside that breaking. I sit here standing on the other side of very hard things. And in the book I share, I held my dad in my arms when he died. Guys, I'm still here, and you will be too.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Dr. Pat, you want to come in before I ask I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
but
let
if
me
you want to
come
come
in.
in.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Mary, and also Malisha. Let me just build on what you've just said. What do you wish someone had told you earlier about becoming the woman and the leader that you are meant to be? So as you take stock,
That my title is...
sorry, let me just interject. As you
Yes.
take stock of where you are at today, being informed by your experiences that you've gone through, what do you wish you had been told when at a younger age that would have shaped you to become the person you are?
I had no idea I'd be the person I am, Dr. Pat. In matric, I was voted least likely to succeed. So I'd go back and I'd tell that young girl, you've got
Wow.
this. I would tell her that you are going to be okay. I would tell her faith over fear. I would tell her you're unstoppable. I would tell her all of the things at the time that when I was growing up, I truly never believed. And for me, I wish someone had told me earlier that surrender is not failure. So I have 5 pillars in the book, and my chapter is actually called Surrender is Trust in Action. Because sometimes the bravest thing that you can do is loosen your grip. As a child, I always had to keep stuff together. trying to stop saving everyone, releasing this need for perfection, and trusting that you can and will become whole again. I learned some of these things a hard way over a very long. But for me, I would not change any single one of them because it's made me who I am today, including the loss, which I don't think anyone should have to bury a child or have to see their parent die. But when you go through things like that, you know that thing? What is the absolute worst that can happen? If I can survive that, everything else becomes small.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Dr. Pat.
Mary?
Yeah. Malisha, you spoke about your mom, teaching you kindness along with your father and generosity. And you also talked about the 21 women whose stories you gathered and which are really inspiring. So just to build on that, who are the women whose stories have influenced you the most beside your mom and then the woman that you worked with? Is there anything that you want to highlight and maybe just tell us a bit more about how that has influenced you in particular?
So yes, definitely my mom and definitely Sarah, my first boss. But the 21 women who created the safe space with me, every single one of them. There was a woman who was born between journeys and named the Good Pathway. A woman who was born perceived to be disabled and left outside to see if she would die. A woman who looked a policeman in the eye during apartheid and asked him where his conscience was. The woman who lost a child and yet came back. And the woman who was never rejected but also never fully belonged. Each of them gave me something I had not known I needed. And what I carried from them collectively is this: ordinary lives carry extraordinary depth when we take the time to listen. And I carry that understanding in every room I enter now.
Thank you so much, Malisha. Dr. Pat, your next question.
Thanks a lot. And Pam, I'm going to skip the question that talks about legacy. I think we've done a lot of work on it right now. But that being said, Malisha, I just want to take you back to the title of your book. It says, "We are the ancestors." And that means that even while we are learning from those who came before us, someone is watching us and learning from us. That being said, then, what responsibility comes with knowing that our lives become part of someone else's story?
It is both beautiful and terrifying of a responsibility in equal measure, Dr. Pat. As you say, someone is watching us now, not in a surveillance kind of way, guys, but in the sense of our children, our younger colleagues, the men and women who observe how we handle things. Everyone's taking notes, not consciously, right? But they're learning from us what is truly possible, what is permitted, and what courage looks like in a body. My daughter and I speak about everything you can imagine: diversity, identity, the world, the hard questions. Those questions are some of the best parts of my day. And I'm aware that the way I talk about myself, the way I respond to difficulty, and the way I treat my own needs, she's absorbing it like a sponge. You know, we think these kids are not watching us. Dr. Pat, they're sponges, right? And the responsibility that comes with knowing that it is not to perform. It's not to be perfect. It's to be honest. Because children do not learn from our polished moments. They learn from our real ones. They learn from watching us fail, get back up, from watching us say, "I do not know," from watching us choose integrity when it costs something. So "We Are the Ancestors" is not a metaphor, Dr. Pat. It's a daily practice.
Well done. Mary, allow me to ask the next question because I think it ties up. Then you can do the other two. So that being said, what would you say to a young woman who feels that she has no influence, no platform, and no significant legacy to leave? That poor woman who think I am on a shaky ground. I've got no influence, no platform, and no significant legacy to leave. What would you say to that person?
I would say that you're already leaving one. Legacy is not something you accumulate enough to finally have. It's something you're already doing in every single interaction. And every time you choose kindness when the world rewards hardness, every time you choose to listen to someone in a way that makes them feel heard rather than processed, the young woman who feels she has no platform is already shaping someone's story. A sibling that's watching her, a colleague who notices how she handles something difficult, a stranger in a waiting room who sees how she treats a service worker. The title We Are the Ancestors is not for people who've earned it yet. It's for all of us, right now, as we are. And if I could say one more thing to a Dr. Pat, the stories that shape your life, even the difficult ones, and maybe especially the difficult ones, are not liabilities. They are the very material from which meaningful influence is built. The most powerful voices I've encountered are not the ones with the most impressive credentials. They're the ones who've lived something honestly and are willing to say so.
Thank you so much. Let me hand back to Mary.
Yeah, good. Just two questions, but I just want to comment on what you said about children absorbing everything. So just need to be very careful. That's what I do when my kids are around. But I think everybody in the chat could agree as well that we do absorb everything, from our parents and then our environment, our communities as well. Now, Malisha, earlier you said something powerful. You said that becoming an ancestor does not begin after we are gone, but it's in the choices we make now while we're still alive, right? It's about the cycles that we break and then the dignity that we hold on to. So what does this mean specifically for a woman? What responsibility do we have to create this pathway, the safety, and then also the safe environment for our children? So what does this mean for us as women?
So responsibility is real, right? It's not general or it's not aspirational. It means that when we're in a room and a younger woman's idea is being talked over, you name it for what it is. You say, she said something worth hearing. Let's go back to that. And often we think confrontation has to be aggressive and loud, but anything done with dignity and respect will allow people to pause. You're now drawing a line in the sand that says, this is not okay. It means when you have information that could help someone behind you, you share it rather than hoarding it, right? Like I could never understand this information is power or knowledge is power. Knowledge is power in its sharing, not in its hoarding. I don't get that. We've not inherited enough in relation to our mindset, and that's why we have a scarcity mindset. There's enough sun for us all to shine. It's not a slogan. It's my personal, passionate belief that it's a choice that we make every day. It means being honest about what the journey actually cost you. I'm not going to pretend that corporate was easy for me. I'm not going to pretend that I came out unwounded or without scars, not to frighten people, but to prepare them so that they know what they're walking into and they do not mistake the silence around the hard parts for ease. Because I'm quiet, it doesn't mean it's been easy. And it means creating conditions where women do not have to become a version of someone else to succeed. That is the specific work that needs to be done, not just opening a door, changing what is inside the room so people can actually be themselves once they get there.
Thank you so much. My last question, I think you have touched on that, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Yes, go ahead.
Before you ask the question, Mary, sorry, I'd just like to take a comment and a question. I'm not sure maybe it's both. From Dr. Bunene in the chat, who's saying, good evening, Malisha and everyone. My apologies. I'm driving back from field work and had to stop briefly for this one. Many thanks for this interesting and informative discussion. My question is, since it is almost an open secret that nothing is guaranteed when it comes to employment, solely depending on being employed is increasingly proving to be risky. What is the most immediate and practical thing that young people can do to safeguard themselves against this reality and build greater financial and economic resilience? So that's a question from Dr. Bunene. So if you're still in the call, Dr. Bunene, let me see or he had to go, but he left us with a question. So maybe you can address, because the session is recorded, so I'm sure he will listen to it when he gets a chance.
So Pam, for
Still
me,
around, still around.
one,
Oh, you're still around. Oh, yes, Dr. Kunene, please, now that you have actually said you're still around, please verbalize your thoughts and engage with our guest, Malisha. Welcome.
shall I answer the question, Pam?
Okay. Yes, please.
So for me, there's an increasing trend in what everyone calls side hustles, right? Because if you look at economic growth over this past while, our wages have not necessarily increased at the same pace as inflation. And just the basic cost of living is incredibly high. So the most immediate and practical thing people can do to safeguard themselves, guys, please understand the principle of credit. Please don't live beyond your means. And I don't mean that unkindly. If you come into my home, I don't have a single name brand, much to a lot of people's horror, right? Name brands, and I know I'm not taking, if that's what does it for you, by all means, go ahead, live your best life. Cars are a liability, right? Don't drive a car and not invest in property. It's those sorts of things that we were never raised to know or understand. And for me, I would rather say no to a dinner and know that I'm able to feed my family for the rest of the week than to live beyond my means. I see time and time again, we have this societal need to be able to live a certain life and to carry a certain handbag and wear a certain kind of shoe. It's not who I am. And once again, I don't begrudge you if that is the way you choose to live your life. But for me, live within your means, guys. Financial and economic resilience comes through every decision you make. And every bottle of Johnny Walker Blue that you think is a celebration, help me understand how. Sorry, Pam.
Yep.
Pam,
Spot
you
on,
there?
spot on.
Yeah. No, I wanted to comment on that. I think that goes back to the clicks, the social media. I think a lot of people have seen posts on social media saying that people buy those things just to show it off on social media, just to show it. So they live beyond their means for the clicks and the likes. Yeah, but that's really insightful. So let's not live beyond our means. No branded handbag after this.
I don't have one, unfortunately,
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
still trying to
So
finish building my house.
good one. I know that we are short on time, so let me ask the last question, Malisha. So we have spoken about, how society expects women to be everything, super mom, the professional, the person who's always available, and who's very strong. That's the expectation. So if you could change one narrative that society has taught women about themselves, what would it be? I know that you have touched on this earlier, but what would it be? What's that narrative that you would like to change in the society?
So the narrative I encounter most persistently, not just in work spaces, but communities as well, is that you have to earn the right to take yourself seriously. So when you get the degree and when you have the promotion and once you've raised your children, once you've settled your debts, once you've sorted everyone else's needs, then you begin. By the time that arrives, guys, many women have spent so long making themselves useful to everyone else, they have forgotten what they have wanted. So I want to replace that narrative with this. You are already enough to begin with. Not enough to stop growing, not enough to stop learning, but enough to start today as you are with what you have. Because here's the truth, right? The truth is that the benefits are not just about the woman to hear it, but every one of those women who will go on to lead each other, raise each other, teach each other, and shape each other.
Wow. Thank you so much. Can go on and on. Got a lot of questions, but I think let's leave it there. I'll reach out to you directly because yeah, I've got a lot of things to say. But thank you so much. Thank you, much appreciated. Pam, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I think let's just check with our leaders in the call if we haven't missed anyone in terms of engaging with Malisha. If anyone has a question and would like to ask something, please, you are more than welcome to unmute yourself now and
Maybe,
pose the
Pam,
question.
if you don't mind, let me issue my parting shot, and then you can take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah, Mel, I want to issue my parting shot, and it is premised on the statement that you made earlier on. You said we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. You remember that? Okay, taking it from that, when the next generation takes stock of us, what do you think they will say about us? What do you hope they will say about us when they take stock of us based on the fact that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams?
I hope that they'll say we told them the truth, Dr. Pat, that we weren't perfect, that we didn't get everything right all of the time, but we were honest, that we named the hard things instead of smoothing them over or hiding them behind curtains, that we created rooms where people could be themselves without having to negotiate their humanity at the door. I hope they'll say that we left behind something better than what they found. Not because we were exceptional, but because we made a daily choice every day in ordinary, unremarkable moments to act as though the people around us truly mattered. And I hope they'll say that we understood something important about legacy, that it did not begin after we were gone. It begins with the choices we were making every day. So every time we choose courage over fear, dignity over domination, collaboration over competition, and humanity over hierarchy, every time we use our voice so that someone else can find theirs, that is the legacy I'm building, and that is what I hope that they inherit.
Thank you so much. From me, history will be the judge. I thank you. Pam?
Indeed, history will be the judge. Yo. My goodness, Marina, we can talk to you like the whole night, but obviously, we don't have the luxury of time. We need to balance our priorities. But I see there is Thandiwe Gama who's put on her video. So, Thandiwe, I'm not sure if you'd like to say something. So you're more than welcome to unmute and engage with our guests and our co-hosts. Welcome.
Thank you, Pam. Oh, you know what? What a powerful session we've had. I'm not saying anything because my voice is gone. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I'm not so sure if you're hearing me, but my voice is gone. That's why I can't say anything.
Can hear you.
Into the video. But thank you very much. Malisha, I've learned so much from you. I've taken so much notes, but you are a full representation of what woman is. But thank you. Thank you. I hope for next time I'll have
God bless. Heal well.
No, God bless.
Yeah.
Sunday, God bless. Yes, Malisha, continue.
No, I was just saying to her, God bless her, and that she must heal well.
Awesome, awesome. No, thank you so much. I think let's round up with the closing reflections and just for our audience, something to think about before as we prepare to close. It's not a question that you need to answer for now, but maybe a question for reflection. As you reflect on this session on your own and thinking about your life and your professional network and your professional space, also in the social context, is that what is the one story about yourself that you are learning to rewrite? And number two, who is one woman whose legacy continues to influence you? Number three, what does meaningful legacy look like to you? Number four, what is one thing you want the next generation to inherit from you? Yeah. So as we close, Malisha, Mary, and Dr. Pet, thank you so much for a meaningful conversation. And to everyone who joined us tonight, thank you for being part of this very, very inspiring conversation. And we really would like to leave you, with the title of tonight's conversation, which is the name of Malisha's book that captures stories of 21 women, myself included. I also have a chapter in that book. Please recognize the girl here. And the title of the book is We Are the Ancestors, because perhaps being an ancestor is not something that begins when our lives end. Perhaps it begins with the choices we make while we are still here. Every time we encourage someone, we are shaping a story. And Malisha, your key takeaways or maybe your closing reflections, and also just tell us more about the book. Where can people find your book? How do they get hold of it? Where do they buy it? You are more than welcome to leave your contact details. Let's show some love and share Malisha's book. Where do they find you? Your socials, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. So I'm going to keep it very brief. There's enough sun for us all to shine. There is enough work for everyone. I have learned so many amazing lessons, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have left corporate a long time ago. So for me, be the person you needed when you were younger. It costs you nothing. And thank you, Pam, for this opportunity. So the book can be purchased on the website called waterlegacy.com. It's also available on Amazon. The most powerful thing for the book for me, if you would like to, is please go through the journaling part of it, because your story matters. And don't let anyone tell you that you're ordinary. Thank you, Pam.
Yes, and maybe if they want to buy the book directly from you, I'm not sure if you want to leave your email address.
Sure. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. No, so as Malisha puts it in the chat, Mary, do you have any closing reflections, a closing comment, just a minute or so?
Yeah, thank you so much, Malisha. That was just really a powerful session. I feel very inspired. And I think the comments about, we don't have to wait to become ancestors. It's through the choices we make now, the dignity we hold on to, and everything that we do, and what we do now would actually make an impact for future generations. And then also what you said about, we don't have to carry all the burdens. We don't have to be everything to everyone. We just need to reflect. So yeah, I found it very inspiring. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us this evening.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, and Dr. Pet, thank you. And Dr. Pet, your closing reflections from a male perspective.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Like I said, the conversation and the way you come across were very captivating. And but the key takeaway message for me is that we are our ancestors' wildest dream. Depending how we conduct ourselves today, we're basically giving them hope, or we're basically taking away the hope. I thank you. Good evening.
Yes, and thank you to every woman and every person who joined us tonight. Keep telling your story, keep creating spaces for others to tell their stories, and most importantly, be intentional about the ancestor you are becoming. And with that, we are signing out.